Hello and welcome back to The Way That I See It. This is Lucy Superfox and this is my podcast. So this week I am talking all about change. I've been talking about it on social media. I'm talking about it in my blog. I'm talking about it everywhere because I really believe one of the things that I am bloody fantastic at is adjusting and adapting to change. And as much as I don't find it easy by any means, I actually know it's one of the things that has allowed me to thrive in challenging times. So what I wanted to talk about is, I guess, what's necessary to create change, what we need to do, how we need to be, what we need to adopt in order to change our lives for the better, whether that's your finances, your body, your business, your relationships, who and what we need to do in order to create that change and that long-lasting change. And ultimately, kind of the model and the steps that we can apply time and time and time and time again, that we can do this over and over and over and over, because there are two inevitabilities in life. One is that life will end, and two, that change is always coming. So I think, first of all, the first thing to wrap our heads around the fact is that there are two types of change. There's external change happening on the outside of us, and then there's the internal change when we decide to change something about ourselves and how we do things. Now, external change, so the environment, politics, the weather, the travel, all of that sort of stuff is, of course, absolutely within our sphere of influence. You know, we can all make a difference in politics, the climate crisis and everything else, but it's not necessarily within our sphere of control on a day-to-day basis. So with that being said, the only thing, and it's cliched as hell, the only thing that we actually can control is our actions and our attitude. And if I'm honest, there's a step behind that. It's not just your actions and your attitude, but it's your belief system. Now, I am well known for saying that your belief system is like the lens in your glasses, the sat nav in your car. It is the thing that will put you in the right direction. It will give you the directions, the step-by-step on how to get where you want to go. So if the belief that you have in your lenses is negative about change, negative about progress, or is trenched in shame or fear, which is kind of next week's topic and something I'm really digging into at the moment, and again, through personal experience, right? If that's what your lens is, if that's what your belief system says, is that change is scary, change is terrifying, change comes with bad consequences, then trying to create change for you is going to feel like a very slow upward battle that you may never win, because the story that you tell yourself is the story that you live out. So what I first want you to really think about is the thing that you want. So whether you want to improve your body, you want to improve your business, improve your relationship, finances, right? I want you to get really, really clear on what you want. And last week I talked about, how that is, how to figure out what you want. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and do that. But figuring out what you want is the first step, because unless you're really clear on what you desire, what you dream, what you want, what your aspirations are, what your goals are, right? Now, it doesn't have to be a goal in terms of it has to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, right? But you have to know what you want. So you have to know, I want to grow my income by £10,000. I want to improve my relationship so that we communicate more. I want to, you've got to be clear about what you want, because if you're not, then change can't happen. Or change does happen, but because you weren't specific enough about what you want, you weren't clear enough about what you want, you didn't even notice, okay? So first of all, we have to know what we want. Then we have to work out what on earth is holding you back. So what is the thing that is stopping you from moving forward? Now, it is going to be a belief system. It's going to be a story or a belief that you hold that stops you from moving forward. So what is it? So if I said to you now, right, you've got your goal, you've got the thing that you want, what do you believe is stopping you from having that? So what is stopping you from having that? So if I said to you, you can't have that, that's not possible for you because what? What is the rest of that sentence? Because, money's scary. Because I'd probably lose a £10,000 anyway. Because I don't know how I would ever deserve that. And it's not always going to be a limiting belief, right? It's not always going to be a big, deep story around how you don't believe you're worthy. Sometimes it's small stories like, well, if I've lost it once, I can lose it again. Sometimes it's a conditional belief that I can only earn that if I work 70-hour weeks, right? So what you have to start to understand, and this is where, a course and a coach can be so valuable. This is why I created the Build Your Belief bundle, for this exact reason, is that sometimes what happens is we don't actually know why we don't believe in something, or why we don't believe we can have something, because we don't ask deep enough questions. We don't dig enough into why we don't believe we can have something. A lot of the time we try and aim to justify why we can have something, but we don't necessarily then do the reverse work to work out what's holding us back. So we logically think, well, I believe I can have it. I believe I'm worthy. I believe I'm enough. I believe that I know what to do. I know how to do it. So what's stopping you? well, probably a conditional limiting belief that says when it happens, or if it happens, that something else will happen. And this is what you have to get to. You have to understand the narrative that is running on repeat in your filing cabinet. Because until you do, change is always going to feel something separate outside of you, something that feels hard and difficult. It is when you embody a belief system, and I mean literally embody, you believe it's already happened, you know, it feels like it's already in a memory, right? When it feels like a memory rather than something out there, then it will happen. And that is because you create a belief system and a story that is almost like a roadmap. Now, this is not about manifestation, actually. This is not about woo. This is not about any of that. You know, we'll get into that into other topics, but this is actually about providing a map for your mind. We all have something called the reticular activating system, which is basically a filter. It filters for what you tell it to look for. It looks for what you tell it is important to you. If you are running stories in the back of your mind that proving that people lose it all is important to you because you keep telling that story, whether you're conscious of it or not, then that's what it's going to keep finding. If you tell a story of the fact that change is easy and building a business is easy and that you love scaling your business and it's easy and it's fun, that is what you will find evidence of. So you will always find evidence of what you are talking about. You will always find evidence of what you are thinking about. And so this is where becoming aware of your thoughts and stories, and especially asking yourself why you can't have something, right? Why you believe you can't have something, why you believe something won't happen for you, or how you think something will happen for you. Getting aware of those stories is just as important as building the stories in the direction of this is why I think I can have it. Because we will always, and we're negatively biased. Unfortunately, human beings, through fear and shame and other negative emotions, we are negatively biased. Positive bias is a condition. We create that conditioning through practice, habit, stories, and beliefs, right? And so we will always lean into the negative because we think we're protecting ourselves. You know, I was talking to my therapist about this, and we were talking about shame. And she was saying how shame was actually something that kept you in line. Shame was something that when you were part of a tribe, you know, you would never go and step out of line because then you'd be ostracized and then you would die, because if you weren't part of a tribe, you'd be unsafe. And so actually that's such an interesting concept to apply to change in general, right? To creating change, creating something different in your life, is that if you sometimes people believe that if they stand out and ostracize themselves, that they won't be accepted or loved. And what can often happen is that's running as a story underneath all of the I'm worthy, I'm amazing, I believe I can attract, blah, blah, blah. What's actually running underneath that is the fear of being ostracized, the fear of being separate, the fear of being alone, the fear of not having something to connect with people on because you've put yourself out there. And this is why change is scary. This is why change feels hard, because you are running multiple belief systems in your mind that need work. Now, don't get me wrong, right? There is a difference between trauma and trauma stories and belief systems. Trauma stories are for therapists, belief systems are for mindset coaches and through personal development, right? They're different things. But for me, I really know that whenever I've wanted to create that next level in my life, whenever I've wanted to create change, whenever I wanted to, whether it's small marginal gains or I've take quantum leaps, whenever I have wanted to do that, I have worked to redefine my belief system. I have chosen what I want to believe. I have broken down the negative and limiting beliefs that say I can't have it. And then I have looked more for the stories. I've looked for those conditional stories about how it needs to happen and what I need to do, because those stories are just as limiting. When I can do all of that and be aware, I then get to choose what I want to believe to be true. And when I step into that belief system and I embody it and I am that person, I become that person, and the thing that I'm trying to achieve feels like a memory, feels like I've already done it, then it happens. I am telling you, this works time on time, because your belief system is the lens in your glass. It is the sat nav in your car. It is the thing that takes you from A to B. And if right now yours is up shit creek because you've got a ton of negative beliefs, ton of limiting beliefs, and even though you might be a generally confident, positive, happy, personally developed person, if you still hold these beliefs about certain areas of life, some areas of life might thrive and some areas will feel stagnant and stuck. This is why I created the Build Your Belief Bundle, because that was me. That was me in end of 2020, early 2021. I was thriving in some areas of my life and I was fucking struggling in other areas, and I couldn't comprehend why. I was like, I'm confident, I know I'm worthy, what's going on? But because I was running stories in the background, like, you know, on your laptop when it says, you know, you're using 80% of your system power, and you're like, how? I'm only on Word, right? Because there's systems and programs running in the background that you have left there. And that is the exact same thing in your mind. So we have to get into the back of that mind, and we have to bring awareness to the things that say we can't have what we want. That is why change feels hard, because we're trying to run against our inner workings. We're trying to force against our inner workings rather than do the work to break them down, uncover all the noise, strip them right back and work out, actually, right, this is what I want. This is what I need to do. This is what says I can't have it. This is how I'm going to rewire that, prove that not true, and then ultimately, in turn, transform and change my life. So change doesn't have to be hard, but change does require a difference in you. It requires you to think different. It requires you to believe different, and it requires you to be different. So that's it for this week's episode. I'm going to talk next week more about shame and fear, how they can be emotions that can paralyze us and hold us back from living our dream lives and stepping up into that next level life. So make sure to subscribe, like, share, and let me know what you thought of this episode, either on social media or down below with a comment. But I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.